Hi, welcome to ECCSC Live. I'm your host, Tyrone Muhammad. Once again, we have an exciting show. Today we have guest Paul Pearson, youth advocate, a lawyer,
law student.
What else?
Oh my God, just community serving. We'll just put it that way.
Community serving, brother and friend to the community. Today we want to talk about with specific interest and emphasis on our youth in the juvenile justice system.
Yes, sir.
Is 11 South Hamilton mainly?
1100 South Hamilton is the Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. We have about 300 youth, predominantly 80% black. And we have a few young ladies, unfortunately, in that facility. So we'll be talking about that as well.
Let me just say this before I introduce Paul. Schools, Chicago schools in particular, has been called pipelines to prisons. After watching my little brothers go through the juvenile justice system and ultimately ending up in a adult facility, IDOC, having gone through that myself, as you all know, my little brother currently is serving 85 years in prison. But the juvenile justice system, DJJ, 11th and Hamilton, was his beginning. Me being away from him, I couldn't save him, and nor did my example, or was my example enough. Being incarcerated was enough to save him. We have a lot of young brothers and sisters in that place. For whatever reason it is that they're there, no child is irredeemable. Regardless to how you feel about it, there's always someone who can reach those children. So with that being said, with a heavy heart pointed towards that, I want to introduce Paul so he could tell you about what his job is, his function is in the DJJ, and all the other activities and program we have coming up in the future that can best address those issues and that will allow you out there to contribute your voice, your effort, your time, your money towards what it is that he will be introducing you to today. Some of the stuff is new, some of the stuff is old, and I want to hear it myself. So Paul, please introduce yourself to the people and tell them who you are, what you do, and what the future holds for our sons and daughters in that juvenile justice center.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Brother Muhammad, for having me here to have this conversation, this very serious conversation. Thank you for all the work that you do with ECCSC. Sometimes we forget that we deal with a systemic concern, one that is multi-generational, one that doesn't just begin when that young person winds up at the JTDC, but maybe between the time that he was brought into this world into a system that probably predated his existence, that almost set him up in some ways for failure rather than to succeed. But with that being said, a little bit about me. My name is Paul Pearson. I grew up in the housing projects on 45th and Cottage Grove, dropped out of high school, and very well could have been one of those young people at the Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. But for one opportunity I got that sort of changed my lens and changed my perspective, someone that I was doing business with who would come to the projects from Hyde Park gave me an opportunity. He said, listen, I know what you're doing right now and you're doing pretty good at it, but I got an opportunity where you could become an engineer and work for one of the largest corporations in the United States of America. I took that opportunity and it allowed me to travel around the country. And whenever I would go different places outside of Chicago, I would ask, where's the black community? And people would look at me as if something was wrong. And I said, well, you know, where the hood at? Where the black folks live? And they said, there is no hood. There is no black folks community. I said, well, where am I getting my soul food from?
Right.
All those sorts of things. And what I found out is that Chicago was unique. They had almost predetermined that black youth in particular would be segregated onto the south and the west sides. Economically deprived of opportunities to get an education, to start a business, to grow and develop. And when that was extrapolated from the community, what did they expect? The outcome was almost as predictable as the sun rising in the morning. They just had to pick their choice of who would be sitting inside those facilities. I do want to point out something else. Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. What does that mean? Let's unpack that a little bit, Brother Muhammad.
Yes, sir, please.
Brother Muhammad, those young people haven't been adjudicated. They haven't been adjudicated. That means they have not been found.
These young children sit in a prison.
Ain't been found
Guilty of any crime.
of nothing. Adjudicated delinquent is what they call it in the juvenile. And guess what they don't have?
Adjudicated.
Delinquent. Guess what they have for adults that they don't have for young people?
A bond.
A bond. So that means that I can't even go and come up with an amount of money to say release my child
Who hasn't been found guilty.
who has not been found guilty of any crime back home to me.
Constitutional violation all the way.
But these are young people so that they can circumvent the Constitution. This is how they do it. This is the game that they play with us. But we've got to wise up and understand what is attacking us and how to counterattack. Right? So as we see these young people cycled in and out, then we kind of figure like, wow, you know, what is the purpose of this, right? It's not doing these kids good. We've been sending them in and out, in and out.
So, real quick.
Sure, my brother.
You brought me in to talk to some of these young men.
Yes, sir.
These young men that I sat down with, who I spoke to,
Yes, sir.
and who I had their attention.
Yes, sir.
These so-called killers and these little thug little babies.
Whatever you want to say, right?
Sat and listened to me attentively.
Yes, sir.
You mean to tell me them same shorties are the ones they say are so bad and so disconnected and nobody can reach them?
Brother Muhammad, you saw it with your own two eyes, and they still ask about you all the time. They want to be a part of who you are. They want to be like you. They don't want to lose contact and connection with a brother like you who can guide them down the righteous path, right? But here's the key. There's another competing force that makes $230,000 per bed per year.
Per bed.
I'm not joking. I'm not making this up. This is empirical evidence. I do legal research as a law student at the DeVal University College of Law as we sit today. This is something that is a passion, and I understand that everybody wants to make a dime. But Brother Muhammad, if I gave you $230,000 a year per child,
I wouldn't need but 30.
Would that place have any
No.
young people in it?
No. So, if you gave it to me,
this is where we gotta.
No.
This is where we gotta join together. We gotta find a way that Brother Muhammad and our community partners start to get access to this economic engine. See, because right now it's taken out of our communities, and it creates the cycle that we see over and over again. But if we put it in the hands of a righteous man and a righteous program, and we give our young brothers a reflection of themselves so they can see it before it hit. Young man, don't go that way. right? So when you were sitting there talking, having that conversation with those young brothers,
Yes.
what was they doing, Brother Muhammad?
Listening and really scared to death.
Did they curse?
No
Did they curse at you? Did they lift the voice?
Did
they want to argue with you? Did they want to argue with each other?
Nothing. But once again, 230,000 for one child, one bed, 230,000. We could save 10 to 15.
Well, that's
so caller, come on through. Talk to Paul.
Hi, I'm from Decatur, Illinois, and I have a question. It's a little bit off topic. My question is ECSC connected with those 15 men released today for crimes they didn't commit? And will ECC be connected with those other 50 that's due to be released? And how would these men get a new life after being away for 15 or 20 years?
Go ahead.
Thank you for that question, my queen. And what we'd like to point out, because you brought up a very interesting component of restorative justice for our young people, culturally competent restorative justice for our young people. The Cook County Detention Center and DCFS are competing forces. One is run by the state. That's DCFS. That's through the state of Illinois. The Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention, however, is run by the county. So, but depending upon whether a young person has been found delinquent or not, determines who gets the money. So if DCFS finds, if the judge finds this young person delinquent, DCFS then gets the money. And if DCFS then gets the money, they get to make the rules on how we care for our young people post their adjudication.
Wow.
So we need queens like you, and we already have some in our coalition who have become foster parents. What do you get as a foster parent through the programs and connections that we have? You get a car, you get a house, you get a paycheck, you get funding to feed those children, clothe those children, to put them in youth programs and to make sure that they get to and from school every day.
And them children look like us.
And those children come from where we come from. And they'll connect with us. And therefore, we'll be helping ourselves because we're building our future through those programs. But to get to your point, DCFS is, again, a state-run institution. It probably, in reality, and I'll take off my lawyer hat and I'll put on my realism hat for a second, does not have our best interest at heart. Again, they're a money-making foundation. They are cyclically creating a budget in which they have to operate from with a policy and procedure that does not care who that child is and where that child comes from. That's why we need programs like Brother Muhammad has, so that we can conjoin not just the financial assets, but the cultural and historical component to giving these young people life.
And the cultural component is everything.
Everything.
Because it's everything, as I always said, and I stated to you that it's a particular style and an approach that you have to deal with each one of these children.
Yes, sir.
Every child is unique in their own way.
Yes, sir.
Every child is special.
Yes,
so
sir.
you can't approach a child that's docile in a way that you approach a child that's vibrant and aggressive. So you have to really take the time and care enough about these children to even do that. My program will offer certain levels of mentorship, a different level, a different type of mentorship that's fashioned towards those individual children based on the personalities of them individuals. And then I will link those aspects, or in the cultural aspect, where most of them shorties are tied to little street gangs, cliques, and aspects of that, to those guys who have the right key. Because you don't have everyone don't have a master key.
There you go.
You just have to put the right key in the hands of those children,
yes,
or locks to unlock
our leaders.
So that's really not, it's really not hard. You just have to care enough to put forth that effort. And they know we can do this.
Oh, of course.
But they never give us the opportunity to do it because there's no resources.
We're demanding it now. See, I'm not asking today.
Yes, sir.
Today is not an ask. This is what we do. We conjoin the community. And we go down there and say, you've had 400 years of trying to have black children assimilate into your culture. It still has not worked to this day. As a matter of fact, now your kids are following the black kids' culture. Therefore, it has come time where we take ownership of our community and we say, you know what, you're going to put those resources where they belong.
People on the ground.
Right? So we also have to add this component too, and Brother Muhammad brought up a real valid aspect of the culturally competent point. But there's a thing called trust. And if you don't know where I come from and you don't know who I am, and you try to build a relationship with me, it's going to take forever. But if I give those brothers, those young sisters, people who come from where they come from, who've experienced what they've experienced, and I sit them down and have a conversation, I don't even need no money. I promise you, after a short period of time, they're going to be looking to that elder saying, how can I help? How can I be a part of this positive change?
See, this topic can go on forever, Paul. That's why we really never have enough time. That's why on the radio station, we have the radio station UBM, and we try to talk about these, we do talk about similar issues, and if you want to continue this conversation, we're going to leave you information so that we can continue this tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. So before the show ends, we will leave you some information. But I want to listen to the next caller. Please, I'm sorry.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is Naima Latif with the Female Solution Radio Show.
Naima, hey sister.
How are you, my queen?
Oh, excellent, excellent. So glad to hear the wonderful work you're doing. And, you know, as I watched the release of 18 men from jail today, from prison, who had been falsely accused, and I know many of the men have children that they have been deprived from seeing, and that's where we get a lot of the juvenile issues where people have not had the proper parenting because their parents have been taken from them. So my question is, what are some ways that perhaps your organization is helping to reunite the fathers with their children and kind of helping them put their lives back together and perhaps even help correct some of the problems that evolved in their absence? And what are some ways that other people can help if they want to be a part of that process?
Well, thank you, my queen. We truly appreciate that question, and it is a very real epidemic. The father goes away, the young person then acts out, he winds up in the same situation, and if you heard me just a little bit earlier, we call this systemic. That means it's generational. So you point out a very key aspect of what it is that we do. First, we partner with amazing organizations like Brother Tyrone Muhammad's, right? So we've got to find those brothers who have been re-entering into our communities, along with those 18 who were unjustly convicted of crimes that they did not commit. And we bring them back into our youth programs, and we show them that not only one, you can become a responsible and measured member of our society, you can actually give back. And that's teaching the young people that they're responsible also to listen and to learn from some of the people who've had experiences. The same thing that they're doing on the streets when they're listening to a drug dealer that says, man, if you sell this pack, you can get $10 for this pack. A brother can say, man, if you got a t-shirt with your slogan on it and your name on it and you repping your positive in your community, you can sell it for $10 and you can sell it online and you get to keep the money. I found that when we give those brothers the options and those sisters the options, they choose the latter. They say, I want to keep what I've earned. So we give them those opportunities, and we work with partners such as Brother Tyrone Muhammad's program and many others. I hope that addresses your question, but you did make up a key another key point that we want to talk about just a bit. 18 brothers falsely convicted of a crime that they didn't commit. Now, this is the adult facility, where these men at least have some ability to voice that they didn't do it. Now look at the juvenile facility, where a young person may not have the mental faculties or the cognitive abilities to say, I didn't do this. And they're held to a less, right? So it has to be in a criminal court for adult. It's called clear and convincing evidence.
Right.
For a young person, it's probable likelihood of a probability that they actually committed the crime.
Wow.
And most of them are confessions from our young people who just got sick and tired of being sick and tired of asking the same question over and over again. So it's called interconnected, my queen. Take the brothers who have been through the situation, bring them to the brothers who are currently in the situation, and then taking that back into the community so we can let our other brothers and sisters who are not currently in that situation to help them to avoid it.
See, that's why it's hard for me to smile. People always like, man, you always got this look on your face. You know, when you serve 21 years in the box and you're grown, 2 decades, and I'm a grown man, I can't imagine what that feel like for them young guys, them young men and women, young ladies, who sit in those cells, man, confined and isolated from society over petty issues. What are some of the, real quick, and I'm gonna finish my point, some of the crimes that they're found guilty of? I mean, that they're being held.
Yes, sir.
Illegally for. Let me say that. What they're being held unjustifiably for.
Is what we like to term it. And I'm going to keep it real with you because you don't have to trust my word on what I say. According to the National Juvenile Justice Network, they did a survey on Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. 63% of the youth who are in that facility today, 63%, that's a really high number, are in for nonviolent status offenses, drug addiction offenses. If they were white, they'd be in a treatment facility. Technical violation. A technical violation means that if you were supposed to be at school on Thursday and you didn't make it to school, the judge can snatch you up and say you're going to jail. Status offenses, we've already noted that. And public order offenses. If you're a white boy and you go to Lollapalooza and you flip around and smoke and drink and take your pants down and pee in the middle of the street, it's okay. If you do that on the south or the west side of Chicago and you don't happen to be white privileged, you're going to go to jail. This must end. This cannot continue. We cannot sustain this disproportionality of black men and women, boys and girls, being incarcerated for minor infractions. It's costing us way too much. If nothing else, it's costing us way too much. Lives being the most important cost that I see that we have to save in this advocacy.
Wow. So what I was saying, Paul, is that she asked, what would I do for the 18? I will hope the 18 will recognize their responsibility to society.
Come back home.
Will recognize their responsibility to their community. See, in most cases when guys come home and wrongfully convicted 10, 15, 20 years later, my son, when I left my son, he was 7, 8 years old. When I came home, he was 27, 28. So there's not much I could do for him now because I missed that opportunity to nurture, mold, and give him the character that I would have liked for him to have.
Yes, sir.
Although I love him despite who he is now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm saying to you that these men, we have to not allow this to happen to another child.
Yes, sir.
Another generation. This is what this SC is all about, people saving. That's our motto, save people.
Yes,
and in this case, who better to save right now than our sons?
Come on.
Our community need men to step up and put forth an effort, especially in this case of ex-cons for community and social change, formerly incarcerated men who understand, that have experience
Yes, sir.
The as I say, isolation or the operant conditioning of the prison cells.
Have been ostracized.
And this is a serious issue that has to take on serious,
Yes, sir.
immediate consequences, man. And it comes from us mobilizing and standing together to say no more, like Paul said. We're not going to allow that to happen. $230,000 per bed? Our children, black death, black lives, black babies has become big business for the prison industrial complex, no matter how you form it, DJJ, youth, adult, federal, however way you want to put it. We're not saying that people don't deserve to be in prison. So get your crazy minds out the gutter.
Yes, sir.
What we saying is that with what he just mentioned, the small infractions that land our children, when I could just go snatch the little brother off the chair, come here. And let us be the stewards over his life, and let us appoint you a mentor.
That's it.
That can guide you, that can care for you, that can give you direction.
And
foster parents.
Yes, sir.
You're judging these kids. You're judging these kids, and there's a lot of people without children.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm saying we judge them, but we never offer nothing solid in concrete form. They going through stuff that adults couldn't even handle properly.
Many cases.
With that being said, Paul, would you like to wrap it up and give us, 3 to 5 minutes, go at it? Because you've been dealing with this, bro.
Well, we've been dealing with it.
We've been dealing. You introduced me to it.
Yes, sir.
And I'm so happy that I'm able to lend my, I say small support, but any support is great for these children. I watch their eyes when men walk in the room.
Yes.
They like, whoa, you care enough to come and spend your time with me, huh?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, brother.
Well, thank you, my brother. Again, Brother Muhammad, we truly value the work that you put in, your leadership, your commitment to bringing voice to what they may say is the voiceless, but those voices are even rising up. They're not taking it no more inside. They're letting us know to come outside and share their voice, so that's what we do. With that being said, I'm going to try to keep it real simple here. There's a war on crime. There's a so-called war on drugs. There's a so-called war on poverty. But if I look up and I look at the facts, right? Not what they tell me, but what I see. I see black men and black women being hauled away. So it tells me the truth that there is a war on black folk. And if we're not cognizant of that fact, we're likely to wind up in one of those situations where we're being charged or falsely accused and convicted of a crime. If we don't take ownership of who we are and where we come from, and do within our communities for ourselves, somebody is going to do that for you. And more than likely, they're going to make money off of that. So what I would ask you to do here today is connect with my brother Muhammad. Reach out to ECCSC and say, listen, I want to work with an adult. I want to work with a young person. And I promise you, we'll come together and we'll continue to build and improve our communities and ourselves, because at this point, we figured out one thing for sure. Ain't nobody else gonna do that for us. Peace and love, family. I continue to serve you, and I look forward to hopefully at some point working with you down the line.
Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate your support, and once again, reach out to somebody, teach somebody, help somebody, pray for somebody. And if you can't do any of that, if you could do more, give to somebody. It's worth it to somebody that can use it. Trust me. Yes, but find an organization to support and help and contribute your effort and your wisdom to. So thank you for tuning in. See you next week.